My guest for the podcast this morning is Wayne Rowe, and I'm going to give his nice official title here. He is the Director of Communications and Marketing at The Ohio State University at Marion. Welcome back to the podcast.
Well, thank you so very much. It's good to see you. Good to be back. And you said the name exactly right. You said The Ohio State University at Marion. I appreciate that.
Wow, that's good. And, even I stumble over things, and occasionally I end up right.
There you go.
You and I have done so much of this before with programs years ago. Now we're doing podcasts. So, if folks, you have to allow us a little liberty here to have some fun, because we enjoy doing the podcast and actually having a communication when I learn how to speak. So it's very nice. Always good to see you, hear about what's going on at the Ohio State University of Marion, because I remember it as basically a couple buildings out in the middle of, quite frankly, nowhere at one time.
Yeah, we are so proud of the growth that we've seen, in the last 20 years, in the last 10 years, in the last 5 years. As you mentioned, same here. That when I went to school there, it was 2 buildings off of State Route 95, and it's now 10 buildings and upwards of 3,000 to 5,000 students, depending on the semester, between Marion Technical College and Ohio State Marion, and just a growing number of majors. I think what people don't realize is, this is, besides going to Columbus, this is the only place you can get an Ohio State degree. Ohio State Marion and Marion, Mansfield, Lima, Newark, these regional campuses, it is, you are at Ohio State. You're earning the same exact degree that you would earn, if you went to Columbus. Right. And, that comes with a lot of privileges. It comes with being part of the largest alumni network in the United States, which is good for your career.
Yes.
Knowing how many people have attended the Ohio State University over the years, and a school that's really nationally recognized. So the regional campuses, talking about Marion specifically. So when I talk about, Ohio State Marion, I'm talking specifically, or the regionals, I'm talking specifically about Marion. We started in 1957 at the local high school at the time. It's now Grant Middle School, and then built the campus in 68, and have grown tremendously since then. But we have 10 Ohio State majors that you can complete in their entirety. So, but the part that people don't realize, for example, if you go in and we now have a biology major, we have a lot of pre-med majors, so forth. Because we have that biology major, probably 10 or 20 other majors are touched in terms of the number of classes that are available at Ohio State Marion. Same with social work, business, early childhood education, middle childhood education, youth and child studies, history, psychology, English. All of those have an expanse out into other majors. For example, if you came to Ohio State Marion majoring in business and you wanted to switch to accounting, there's a lot of overlap classes there. So the more majors we offer, the more opportunity we have for students to stay longer, save money, because the regional campuses are a little less expensive, and probably one of the best values in higher education in the state of Ohio. Perfect example. Last November, we celebrated, and it's been a while since we've talked about him. You familiar with the name George H. Alber?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually knew the man.
You did?
Yes, I did.
Well, wonderful man. And George H. Alber passed away in 1999 on Thanksgiving Day, and left $32 million of his estate, and $16 million of that went to Ohio State Marion. Well, that's been in a fund collecting interest year after year after year since 1999. That provides upwards of $500,000 to $700,000 a year in scholarship and aid to our students. So that's why 94.5% of our students are getting aid. The other thing we're really proud of, and I'll give you a perfect example, the regionals are the gateway to Ohio State. It is still the state flagship school. It's a land grant school, and we have a mission to the state of Ohio to make sure that we're available to, if you have a high school diploma and you haven't attended college anywhere else before, you can attend the Ohio State University. The only thing we require is if you don't go directly to Columbus, if you don't get in there because there's selective admissions, that you attend a regional campus for 2 semesters, 30 semester hours, and be in good academic standing, meaning you have above a 2.0 grade point average. So, we're available to all students across the state of Ohio. And proof is in the pudding. We now have students in, depending on the semester, anywhere from 54 to 68 of Ohio's counties across the state. And that's just Ohio State Marion.
Wow.
If we include all of the campuses, it's probably, it's probably all of the counties.
Yeah.
But you literally can see this swath of students coming primarily around that US 23 corridor, all the way down in northern Franklin County, around the Outer Belt, up 23, Marion County, Crawford County, Wyandotte County, and then, scattered throughout as far away as Cincinnati in the south and Cleveland in the northeast. So we're pretty much covering the entire state, and people are seeing that, boy, I can access this Ohio State degree.
Yes.
And be in a class with 17 people and talk to my professor, every single day and have, close, intimate contact with that person. And now the academics are starting to follow suit. After this many years, I think selective admissions took place back in, I'm going to say 2002. It was when Karen Holbrook was there. Do you remember President Holbrook?
Yes.
Yeah. So the average ACT scores for Ohio State is now probably, I don't think they go any lower than 28, maybe 27, 26. But there are a lot of quality students that attend the Ohio State University starting on a regional campus. 1/3 of all students start on a regional campus.
I was going to ask you that stat on there.
Yeah.
A third of them start on the regional campus.
Start on the regional campus, 1/3 of our graduates. So,
Wow.
But that you look at when you're looking at a college or university, one of the things that young people don't necessarily look at is retention rate, okay? Meaning from first year to second year, how many students are you retaining, and then on through to graduation? Well, just saw an advertisement talking about Bowling Green State, and they had their whole advertising campaign surrounded by the idea that they were at 80% retention. Columbus campus is at 92 last time I heard. It might be higher than that. It might be 94 at this point. In other words, 94% matriculate on. They keep going. Ohio State Marion is just slightly, I think they must have rounded up because the figure I saw, they were at 79.4% at BG and we were 79.8%. So we're basically 80% of our students matriculate on. If you look at other open enrollment schools across the state, you're going to see as low as 10%. I won't name any names.
Please don't.
30%. Even 52% when I attended Ohio State Columbus back in the early 90s, late 80s, 52% is what the graduation rate was. But now, of course, being selective admissions much higher. But I found that fascinating that, we are on par with some of these, other four-year institutions. Ohio State Marion itself, not Columbus campus. They're beyond that.
I thought of this in kind of a funny way before I prep for this kind of stuff, and I was thinking the other day, and I thought, how one of the lines out of Carmenos, Ohio is, "Time and change will surely show how firm thy friendship, Ohio."
Mm-hmm.
And what I get out of that is change is inevitable.
Change is absolutely inevitable. We just
we're talking about it. Because of what we've seen in our lifetime, let alone where this is going into the future.
Exactly right. So, the regional campus has become more and more an important part of Ohio State's, goals as they move forward.
Yeah.
You see we have our privately developed student housing there. The annex of Marion can house up to 300 students from across the state, and it's, 1/10 of a mile away.
And back in the day, they had no on-campus housing at one point. I think a lot of these regionals at some point, they didn't have much of anything
Exactly.
when they started.
Exactly.
And so now I say the things have changed. We go back to this word change again.
Right.
And you have to adapt to change. And this is where I see this even in all of education. We're going to see a lot of adaptation to a lot of changes going on. I got to thinking also, we talk about the regional campuses. I think, quite frankly, in the days that I was going there, it was kind of like, well, and please, I hope no one takes offense to this, but people will like, well, you go to a branch, like it's not quite as good as going to the main campus. I think that stigma is blown apart. What do you think?
It is beginning to blow apart for sure. It's not all the way there yet. I think that stigma still exists out there, and that's why I'm so thankful for programs like this that allow us to get out there and talk about, the quality of teaching and research that's going on our campus. The last 7 years, we've had undergraduate cancer researchers win the most prized research fellowship from Columbus, the Pelotonia Fellowship, which is $14,000. They get paid to go study cancer under one of our faculty members through the Wexner Medical Center. And that's going on in Marion. That's not happening in Columbus. Well, it is happening in Columbus, but it's all going on in Marion. People presenting, senior theses and traveling the country, presenting their research. This is all happening in Marion. Study abroad trips. Again, being involved in some of these new majors. Probably the biggest thing from a major standpoint is we've always traditionally had, education, getting our teachers, licensed and educated. And that's a tough field. It's really important to have a quality, teacher coming out of college. And Ohio State does one of the best jobs at that. Psychology, history. I'm trying to think of some of the ones that have been there. English have been there for a little while, but now we're looking at the community as a whole and looking at our region and what do we need? Where do we need to educate people? Well, one of the biggest majors out there is engineering. So we invested $15.5 million in our science and engineering building to build it and opened in 2017. At this point, we are growing that program. Engineering technology is really about manufacturing. And think about how many manufacturers are in the state of Ohio.
Oh, absolutely.
So they are literally trained on both aspects of engineering. One aspect of engineering being the core aspect of being an engineer. The other about being a leader in manufacturing. So it's kind of a combined degree, and it's only offered at the regional campuses through Ohio State's College of Engineering. So you can get that entire 4-year degree at Ohio State Marion. So if you're a student that's good in science and math, you can get one of the best priced educations in the state of Ohio. Be one of this 94.5% that takes advantage of the $16 million we got plus the other 42 funds and have great access to these wonderful minds at Ohio State Marion and get a degree and come out. The average salary for an engineering technology major is in the $80,000 range. Starting salary.
Right.
That's just I don't know about you, but I don't make $80,000 a year.
I don't even know what that looks like. I don't know if I could count that.
Right, exactly.
But this is why I like to have you on, because we can get into a conversation about some things, that are, I don't think people sometimes always have thought this out and thinking how the valuable the regional campuses are through the Ohio State University system.
Absolutely.
And, I always appreciate you having you on here, and I hope you'll come back again and share.
Happy to come back anytime that you'd like me to. Love working with you and talking to the listeners and sharing about Ohio State Marion and, kind of filling in some of the misnomers that are out there. So, it being wintertime, just knowing that we've got FAFSA coming up. It's really important people complete that FAFSA. The Scholarship Universe is a good app to go find scholarships from around the country. But make sure you get that in by February 15th.
Yes.
And apply to Ohio State. Give you an idea, these are some of our first-year awards that we give out to people, okay? So if you're in the top 5% of your class, you're going to, from Ohio State Marion, without any other aid or Albert scholarships or anything, you're automatically going to get $3,500, okay? If you're in the top 6 to 10%, $3,000. If you're in the top 11 to 20%, $2,500. Even goes all the way down to the 41 to 50%, $1,000 scholarship automatically coming to you for attending. So that's one way we keep education affordable. There's a couple that Ohio State has added in. The Marion Merit Scholarship. To qualify for that, you have to complete your application by February 15th. And if your high school does not calculate class rank, that was what I was just talking about. Ohio State will evaluate your transcripts from your high school and determine where you would fall in that class ranking. The Buckeye Opportunity Program ensures that all Ohio residents who submit their FAFSA by the 15th of February qualify for a Pell Grant, receive enough aid to cover the full cost of undergraduate tuition and mandatory fees. So in other words, if you only got, let's say you got, Ohio State's Marion's $9,212 for the year, okay?
Yes.
The entire year. Let's say that you got $5,000 in scholarships and aid. The university is saying because of this Buckeye Opportunity Program, they will make up that shortfall if you qualify through the FAFSA.
Well, I'll tell you, there's just a lot of doors open. Things, like I said, have changed drastically over the years. But, there's one thing about education. I always say, you get a degree, they cannot take that away from you. Most things in your life, you can lose it. You can lose your money, you can lose your health. But your education is something you'll carry with you to the day of your death.
That's absolutely correct. And I mean, that we're in a day and age where there's a lot of pushback against college education and university education. And it's a real shame because that pushback is really doing a disservice to places like Ohio State Marion that actually are letting students graduate with little to no debt. We're not having people graduate with $30,000 to $100,000 in debt. We're having them graduate with $0 to a couple $1,000s in debt because of all of the scholarship and aid, because the prices have been kept low. And in a lot of cases, we're still primarily a commuter campus. Some students are living in and around Marion at the annex, as we said. But our students are not graduating. They're able to go out and, get that job, buy a house. The American dream is still alive. It's just making the right choice of where you want to go to school.
Well, Wayne, I, again, appreciate having you here on the podcast. Wayne Rowe from the Ohio State University at Marion. He is I got to give these fancy titles for everybody, Director of Communications and Marketing. You think I'd know it by heart, but I always look down because I tend to fumble over those things. I would just say to you as a final comment, we are seeing right now kind of people, kind of knocking getting degrees and education. But I want to tell you something. As soon as you get a lot of people talking that, the pendulum swings the other way. I have a hunch it's going to start going the other way. But again, I'm not a predictor of all things. But I'm just saying, I just have a hunch. Normally when you get everybody saying something's one way, a lot of times it'll switch back and go the other. Hopefully we're at that part in the pendulum.
I hope so, because the statistic of the idea that somebody doubles their income by having a college degree over a lifetime, that still exists. That didn't go away.
Right. Yeah, we have to always keep that in mind. Well, thanks again, Wayne, for being on the podcast. Hope to get you back here again in, this the new year. So
thank you. Always good to see you, Dave.
Okay, thank you.